I would like to give you some tips when you're visiting the sites on your own. What I want to talk about at the sites is the tickets, the times, what you can see at night, about tipping, about avoiding the hawkers as you leave the sites, what the rules are about photos, and where the toilets are. So, children and student tickets. Children under 6 are free. They don't ask for any proof of this, so if your child is just on the cusp, don't worry, you don't have to take a passport along or anything like that. From 6 to about 12 or 14, you can get a child ticket, and that's what you should ask for. When your child starts looking like an adult, and this can vary, especially with young girls, sometimes 12-year-olds can look incredibly mature. So when you go to the ticket office, they may well ask to see this proof of student status. So it's worthwhile getting an international student card for any over 12, 14s, depending on what their looks are like. If you've got a very immature 14-year-old, you probably won't get asked, but if you've got a very mature 12-year-old, you might. Now, international student cards, if you Google this, you'll find out where in your particular country you can buy these. You can also buy these in Luxor with, if you've got a student card from a university or a college or something like that, a photo, and I think it's 100 Egyptian at the moment, 2011, then you will get a student card that's valid for 1 year. But with students that aren't in possession of a student card, mature sixth formers, stuff like this, it's quite difficult for the people here to know that you've got the right proof. So it's much better to get a letter from the college or school and then apply online before you come. Being as these give you half-price tickets, they are really quite worth it out here. Now, ticket offices, it does vary. On the East Bank, all the sites, Karnak and Luxor Temple, and the museums, Mummification and Luxor Museum, have their own individual ticket offices. And at the window, you can buy Egyptian tickets, student tickets, and a full adult price. On the West Bank, it's slightly different. Some of the sites, the Valley of the Kings, the Valley of the Queens, and Hatshepsut, have got their own tickets. And at the Valley of the Kings, that sells you the tickets for the Valley of the Kings and the Tomb of I. At Hatshepsut, that sells you the tickets for Hatshepsut and the Asasif tombs and Pabasa. And at the Valley of the Queens, just the Valley of the Queens. There is a main ticket office which is quite near the Colossus of Menon, and that's where you get the tickets for everything else, including the Carter House. Now, the times that the sites are open do vary summer and winter, but they all open at 6 a.m. Now, in the summertime, I really suggest that you hit the sites at 6 a.m. and try and finish early, certainly before midday, but earlier if you can. It's much better to do 2 sites and come back, say, at 10:30, 11, and feel good than to try and carry on and be absolutely wiped by the heat, because it is very hot here, say July, August time. In the winter time, you can go out 8, 9 o'clock, whatever you feel like, and spend the whole day out, and it's not a problem at all. The finish is supposed to be around 4 and 5, winter and summer, but they can get a bit sort of iffy about if you go along at 4:30 and they're supposed to be closing at 5. They don't really like that. So I would aim to finish your sightseeing at least an hour in advance of the closing times. Nighttime. There's very little nightlife in Luxor. So if you're looking for discos and bars and pubs and things, you've come to the wrong town. You seriously have. That's more Red Sea, Hurghada and Sharm. Um, what most people do here is have something to eat and drink. There are a couple of sites that are open in the evenings. You've got a sound and light show at Karnak Temple, and that is in various different languages, and it's a processional one. Um, it's a bit kitsch, but I actually quite like it. I've seen it quite a lot of times, and I really do like it. Luxor Temple is floodlit at night and very, very interesting to go round. It's almost like going around a different temple because you see different inscriptions highlighted because of the deeper shadows. So very, very worthwhile going round. There is rumours that they are going to open more sites in the evenings, and especially in the summertime. I think that's going to be excellent. If you're taking photos at night time, don't use a flash. Get a tripod or rest it on something and turn your flash off. You'll get much better shots. Backsheesh. I'm going to be a bit rough here, but it's a way of life here, so just suck it up and get on with it. You're going to have to pay it. I have to pay it. My husband, who's Egyptian, pays it. Everybody pays it, okay? Be generous. It can make an enormous amount of difference to the people that you meet. The salaries on the sites for the guardians are very tiny, and they do rely on these little bits of extra to pay for things that we're not talking luxuries here. We're talking like medicines or school books or uniforms. So you know, do give over. You can afford it. They can't. Some little guardian taking you round a corner and showing you something which you probably would have found anyway yourself. 1 to 5 Egyptian is fine. A medium service or a restaurant, talk about sort of 15% of the bill or under 50 Egyptian. A big service, well, you can be as generous as you like. I did have one guest who went with one of my drivers to Middle Egypt several days, and they got very friendly, and she was very interested in education. She was a teacher, and he was talking about his son and wanting to have him learn English, and she sent $1,000 to him as a tip once she returned to Australia because she wanted to encourage his son to learn English. I'm not suggesting everybody pays $1,000, but you can afford to be generous. It does go to a good cause. It's quite a good idea to keep your notes separate. So if your big bills, if you kept those in a money belt or something similar, and your little backsheesh money, if you keep that in a purse or a wallet to hand out, and then when you're giving somebody 1 or 5 or 10 Egyptian, they don't see a whole wad of 200 LE notes and think, oh, what a mingy person. Now, when you leave some of the sites, specifically in Luxor, the Valley of the Kings, Hatshepsut, and the Valley of the Queens, you have to go along this little pathway of little shops, and it can be quite intimidating. If you're on your own, I've got some tips, but if you're with a guide, tell them, look, can you protect me from this if that's what you want? But if you want to experience it, be friendly, be humorous, but firm. Oh, you've got to be joking. I've already got 15 of those at home. But if you do decide to buy something, haggle hard. By that I don't mean, he asks for 100 and you offer 1. What I mean is that enjoy the haggle process. You know, he says 100, you say 40, he offers you a cup of tea, you sit down, you have the tea with him, and then you say, no, I can't afford more than 20. And so make it an experience. It's quite a good rule of thumb that you start with your price at 40% of what he's asked for at his price. You can get advice from a guide about, you know, what's the rough price I should pay for this. If you're on your own, some Arabic expressions, if you want to tell them to go away. I have no idea if this is the correct transliteration, but that's how it sounds to me. Mafish flus means I haven't got any money. Phil Mishmish, it actually means when the apricots bloom. But it's like saying you haven't got a snowball's chance in heaven. So if he says to you, oh, come into my shop, no hassle, if you say to him, oh, yeah, right, Phil Mishmish, he will laugh like a drain because he knows that you know that he knows that you know what's going on. Another good one to use, that I use quite a lot, is Anna Saken Henna, which means I live here. So they know you're not going to buy anything if you live here. I've got enough papyrus on my walls, thank you very much. The photographic situation in 2011 is that cameras are not allowed at all in the Valley of the Kings. You have to hand them in before you're allowed entrance into the valley itself. Not just the tombs, entrance into the valley. So if you're going with a guide and a taxi or a coach, you'll be encouraged to leave your camera on the transport. The rest of Luxor, the Valley of the Queens and the Valley of the Nobles, photos are not allowed inside the tombs. All the temples are fine. Karnak, Luxor, Hatshepsut, Habu, all the rest of them, you can take as many photos as you like, and I'm sure that you will do. If by chance you do get a chance for a sneaky photo inside a tomb, like the nobles, turn your flash off. Flash does do nasty things to the wall reliefs, which is why it's been banned. Right, you're out, you're about, and you've got the Pharaoh's Revenge, and you're looking for the nearest toilet. First of all, a word about Egyptian toilets. The toilet paper here is not particularly good quality, and you tend to get it handed out a sheet at a time. Now, this is because of the dreaded hose. Actually, it's not dreaded, it's wonderful. If you think about it, if you've got icky, sticky fingers and you want to get them clean, you don't wipe them with paper, you wash them. Now, inside Egyptian toilets, you will find that they very often have an outlet in the toilet bowl itself, and if you reach down to the side, you will find a tap to turn it on, and that sends a shoot of rather refreshing water up your bottom. And it's very pleasant. And then you use toilet paper to dry yourself with. That's why they tell you not to flush the toilet paper down the toilet and to put it in the basket next to the toilet, is because they're not expecting you to use it for cleaning, but just for drying. So do take advantage of the Egyptian way of going to the loo, as we Brits would say, because it's actually quite refreshing. Now, lots of the sites have quite nice toilets. If you go to the Valley of the Kings, they've got a nice toilet block there. Hatshepsut also. At Karnak, within the site itself, there's a reasonable toilet block. And at the Carter House, they have a good toilet block. Now, some have none. So if you're in Seti I Temple, or the Valley of the Queens, then you will have to go elsewhere to go to the toilet. And these are the places you can go. Now, round Luxor Temple, As you exit the temple, there is just across the road a McDonald's, and next door a Snack Time, and both of those have lovely toilets, and that's a nice place to go in, have a drink, cool off for a bit, maybe even have something to eat. At Medine Habu, just opposite the entrance, is a whole range of little cafes, and they all have toilets. I tend to use the one right on the corner called Maratonga, and he's quite obliging. He doesn't even insist you having a drink or anything like that. He'll let you go, just go in and use his toilet. At the Ramesseum, there is a cafe next door run by the Abdul Rasul family, and that's actually a bit of an experience, that cafe, because there's photos of the Abdul Rasul grandfather as a young boy helping out at Tutankhamun's tomb wearing Tutankhamun's pectoral. So that's actually quite worth a visit anyway. But they do nice coffee there. I quite like the coffee. And the toilets are okay. They're not brilliant, but they're okay. In the nobles' tombs, there is a sort of porter cabin of toilets. They're not very nice. So I would advise you to go across the road to the Ramesseum Cafe. At Merin Patar, the Mar Salem Hotel is just there, and I guess you could use their toilets if you wanted to. I've not actually experienced their loos there, but I know a lot of archaeologists stay there, so I reckon they wouldn't mind. At Deir el Medina, again, we're talking a dodgy Portaloo, so I would go before you go to the site or go somewhere else afterwards. Now, it is polite at these places that are letting you use their facilities to have a cup of coffee or an ice cream or something like that. Um, it's sort of fair cop for using their toilets. Um, So I hope those little site tips will help you going around the sites. It's really quite enjoyable talking to the guardians, etc., and experiencing that aspect of Egyptian life as you go round. And if you'd like any help with your tours around the sites, good old Flats in Luxor can provide it to you. So please get in touch with us through our website.